It's time for Hawgsports Live from Hawgsports.com, a division of 24/7 Sports, presented by Crain Automotive. The Crain Team's got 'em. Visit them online at crainteam.com. And now with the latest breaking updates on Hawgsports, here's Trey Biddy.
What's up, everybody? Trey Biddy with Hawgsports.com, HAWGsports.com. Well, we're going to look at this LSU-Arkansas game a little bit more in depth. We're also going to talk a lot about the coaching search and some of the things that have happened lately. There was a lot of storms the other day, a lot of different information coming out today. We're going to talk about kind of all the rumblings that are going around, what I'm hearing as well. We're going to talk to Glen West over at Go 24/7 about the LSU Tigers, talk to Kevin Bohannon, some of the things that he's learning, your questions as well. All that and more on today's episode of Hog Sports Live. The Crain Automotive Team has 16 locations across our state and is home to the Crain Commitment. You'll find Ford, Chevy, Buick, GMC, Hyundai, Kia, Volkswagen, and access to thousands of pre-owned vehicles. Vehicles for every lifestyle and every budget. Even if you're not in the market for a vehicle, the Crain Team Service Centers offer the latest in vehicle diagnostic technology and certified technicians to take care of your vehicle, get you back on the road. Hog Sports Live is driven by the Crain Automotive Team.
You've done it. Now you're the Crain Cash Champ. You just won big with the Crain Team. Go ahead, soak it up. How could you not feel like a winner? You dominated with our low price guarantee, and you got way more for your trade. Plus, with statewide delivery on thousands of vehicles from 16 locations, and the fact that we'll beat any other dealer's price, we make our Kansans feel like champions every day. That's winning. That's the Crain Team. Visit crainteam.com.
Okay, everybody, where do we start? So a lot of interesting stuff going on from Arkansas has their guy to a report from Pete Nakos today saying Arkansas doesn't even have a top three. I'll say I've heard a lot of different things, obviously, and the only really verifiable things that I can say right now are James Franklin has been contacted, and I've said this. I'm just going to kind of rehash this. Franklin's been contacted. Franklin has reached out to people inquiring about the job. There is mutual interest there. Rhett Lashley was a target, obviously, and has since has taken himself out of the mix, obviously. So those are the only two hard things that we can go on my reporting. There are a lot of other things that I hear that are more unverified. You know, I hear a lot of names. This guy's been contacted. This guy's been reached out. I mean, we've got 20 names on our coaching search hot board. I hear things like Arkansas has got their guy from a lot of sources that have been more like sources that tell me something that allow me to go down a trail to verify or debunk stuff. But I did hear something more recently that made me listen a little bit more from somebody, not from one of my two or three best sources in one regard, but from a source from a different angle. And I can't really go into too much without burning anything. So I don't want to do that, but I'll just say it comes from a different angle. And from that angle, the idea is that something has changed. Something has shifted. Something has shifted. The language, the narrative, the way things are being done has shifted. And this person thinks that they do have their guy, whether it's an agreement in principle or not. And I'm hesitant to say that because that is not generally how this kind of stuff goes with 3 games left. And I see people all the time saying stuff like, well, Arkansas has had this much time. They should have a coach by now. Well, that's not going to be announced, but it does make me think that there's a very decent chance that Arkansas has a guy. Yeah. I mean, but nothing solid. Obviously, I can't just say yes, they have their guy, but it does definitely now a couple sources that are been really, really strong with me in the past. While people have said stuff like that to me, on this kind of level of a source, these sources have not said anything either way. Arkansas doesn't have their guy, or Arkansas does. Okay, so just want to make that clear. But this comes from a different angle. This is somebody who has given me really good information in the past, top-notch stuff. And this person believes that they may have their guy. And I know we've heard that and seen that a lot of places. I just kind of go on my own reporting and what I'm able to find. I don't go chasing around other reports and stuff. So take that for what it's worth right now. I do believe I was premature on basically saying that Tyson was kind of a backstop. I do know that Hunter Yurachek met with John Tyson, obviously, about what they could use from him. But Tyson is he's so involved and invested in basketball and track and golf and other stuff that maybe that's not an area that he's going to go down. So maybe a little bit premature on that he's going to be kind of a backstop of sorts for football. However, speaking to other people, really good sources, the vibe more is that getting to this goal of $40 million over 4 years is a hurdle that they're going to be able to jump, that they feel pretty confident that injecting that additional $40 million is going to happen, and may have happened, but is very close. I think that there are a lot of boosters out there that just want to win. I've talked about, the guy that I spoke to, what was that, last week, I guess, who's, probably closer to 70 than 60. And he's just like, I just want to win. I'm doubling my donation this year. And I catch that vibe from a lot of people. And I think that while you do have tremendous support from, and not that Tyson does a lot. I mean, you see the logo on the field, right? But, I think that you have support from those people, the Hunts, the Georges, the Tysons, Stevens, all of that stuff. But there's also a lot of people that maybe not household names that have very deep pockets that, also are going to go a long way in getting Arkansas football to where it needs to be. So that's roughly, without giving away the farm, that's roughly what I'm hearing right now is there are people, and at least one person that I really feel good about, who feels like Arkansas has zeroed in, maybe even agreed in principle with their guy. And they've had a long time, obviously, to do this search, but you're not going to hear anything announced, obviously, right now. And I think you're going to hear a lot of misinformation out there also, different things. Obviously, the NACOS deal was Arkansas doesn't even have a top three. I don't believe that to be true, but that's what was reported. So anyway, that's where things are right now. Again, a couple of my best sources have basically said nothing either way, and give me a lot of great information. A lot of the information that we've had so far that have led us to this point has come from them. So kind of where things are right now. We'll talk some more, I'm sure, at the end of the show as we take some questions and stuff. But we're on 6.0 of the hot board right now. I still got James Franklin way up there. Again, I think that there are a lot of people that are obviously going to be after James Franklin, a guy that has had a lot of success, a program builder. The knock on him is the wins against top 10 teams, but did a lot of – there's not a scenario that I could imagine where James Franklin wouldn't get Arkansas on minimum solid footing again. Because, first of all, he's not taking this job unless he has the support that he needs in terms of, adding that $10 million a year to the budget, the NIL support that you have to have. He's not taking this job without that. So I can't imagine a scenario where James Franklin is at Arkansas and Arkansas doesn't experience a pretty significant boost in success. Do they start winning national championships? I don't know about that. But do they start competing? Do they start winning games? I just can't. And I've talked about that with Calipari when he came to Arkansas. Like, do I imagine a scenario where John Calipari just flops? First of all, he's not coming to Arkansas without the support that he needs to win. And no, he's not ending his Hall of Fame career as a flop. Just not happening. Same thing if James Franklin were the guy. I mean, obviously we got to mention the other names. I mean, Alex Golesh is one that probably makes the most sense to me. Eric Morris is another guy that doesn't seem to have as much enthusiasm behind him for some reason, even though they are 8-1 right now at North Texas, and he has a tremendous reputation with quarterbacks. I do think it'll be an offensive guy based on some of the things I'm hearing. I think it's going to be a guy on the offensive side of the not a coordinator, but a guy that has that in his background. That's what I think. which James Franklin does. Again, not saying it is him, but he's one of two names that I've been able to verify real interest in. I think Bobby Petrino is probably not getting this. He needed to do more, I think. So nothing substantial on PJ Fleck other than a guy, just kind of that talk that maybe he's done everything he can do there. There's some talk, as I mentioned, about coaches in that area in the Big Ten, a couple of coaches that have interest in Arkansas job. But, as far as anything like the Lindsays are maneuvering to get PJ Fleck and Drake to Arkansas, that is absolutely not true. That is not happening at all. They're not involved at all in any of that. And that comes from good sources. Tony Elliott in Virginia, they lost last week, but they're still, 8-2? But Alex Golish, I think, is a guy that makes a lot of sense. John Sumrall's been talked about a lot. There's been a lot of talk with him in Auburn. I mentioned Eric Morris. Ryan Silverfield, kind of a similar deal. You don't see that swelling of support when people talk about Silverfield, although he's done a lot of good things at Memphis, obviously. Bob Chesney's a name that's popped up, has no experience on the major college level or in this region at all, but has coached. He's won everywhere he's been, So Jason Eck, Kane Womack is another guy that I know has definitely, thrown his name into the ring the last couple of years for jobs out there, and I think wants to get back to being a head coach. He was at South Alabama before he was at Alabama as defensive coordinator. Went to Fayetteville High School, was a walk-on fullback at Arkansas. So anyway, just a few names out there. There's some coordinators, some guys coaching in the NFL, Cliff Kingsbury, Jesse Mentor. But literally every one of these names that I've mentioned are names that just kind of make sense. They're not names that I've heard, yes, this guy is someone that Arkansas is 100% looking at without a doubt and have that verified, like I do with Lashley and with Franklin. I think Arkansas has done a good job at keeping it pretty tight-lipped on who the search is. Now, we have gotten a lot of information, obviously, on the strategy behind the search that we have put out. So we do have that going for us, which is nice. Llama. Yo, Llama. Well, I want to tell you about our friends over at Blakeman's Fine Jewelry. And this holiday season, shop for a meaningful gift, something that'll last at Blakeman's Fine Jewelry, the official jeweler of the Arkansas Razorbacks. From exceptional diamonds and homeware to designer jewelry and timepieces to brands like David Yurman, Rolex, Tudor, Baccarat, and more. Enjoy a festive shopping experience both in-store at 3202 Pinnacle Hills Parkway in Rogers. It's their brand new location. And from anywhere at BlakemansFineJewelry.com. Make your holidays unforgettables with Blakeman's. And I think the important thing to know about shopping at BlakemansFineJewelry.com is they offer delivery. They have things broken down. Like I saw a category like gifts under $1,500, or homeware. Like there's all kinds of different ways to break it down and stuff. So Blakeman's makes it easy. Go check them out online. But if you're in Rogers or in that area, you've got to check out that brand new store. It is really something else. 3202 Pinnacle Hills Parkway in Rogers. Arkansas, we're in the national signing period for all sports other than football. J.J. Andrews has signed. Abdu Torre, not sure how to say that actually. Maybe should have had Connor Goodson on for some clarification. But obviously J.J. Andrews, the big fish in this class, 6'6", 220 out of Little Rock Christian, son of Sean Andrews. Obviously he's been committed for a while now, but is actually signed. He is the number 11 ranked prospect in the entire country, the number 4 small forward, and the number 1, of course, prospect in the state of Arkansas. Really had a great summer and just exploded up those rankings. Had a lot of options out there. Arkansas very fortunate to get J.J. Andrews on board. And Toure, Toure, I guess we need to learn how to say that better, but he has signed also. Another big fish, just outside of 5-star status, the number 36 ranked prospect in the country, the number 17 small forward, and the number 1 player out of the state of Connecticut. Also, a lot of options. 6'5", 200. So a couple of nice high school additions there in the 2026 class for John Calipari's Razorbacks. Arkansas coming off a 93-56 win over UCA on Tuesday in Bud Walton Arena. Next game is tomorrow. That's Friday against Samford. That game is at 7 o'clock. You can watch it on ESPN Network Plus. This is a streak of 4 games where Arkansas should easily take care of business as they get ready for the Thanksgiving Thursday, November 27th game at the United Center in Chicago against the Duke Blue Devils. So that's a 7 o'clock game, which is on CBS. It can be streamed also on Paramount Plus. So you've got Samford Friday, then you come back Tuesday with a game against Winthrop. All these are 7 o'clock games. And then you have Jackson State on Friday at 7 o'clock on November 21st. So those 3 games coming up, then it's a pretty interesting stretch. You've got Duke in Chicago, November 27th. You've got Louisville in Bud Walton Arena. That's a big one at home on December 3rd. You've got Fresno State on December 6th in North Little Rock at Simmons Bank Arena. Texas Tech on December 13th. Get a little break with Queens in Bud Walton Arena at 8 o'clock on December 16th. And then it's Houston in New Jersey. And then James Madison on December 29th. And then, guys, it's SEC play from there, starting January 3rd against Tennessee in Bud Walton Arena. I mean, this is a schedule right here. Like, we've got a little bit of okay, this team has an opportunity to get their, work on some things, understand what they did wrong against Michigan State, build on that. Duke, Louisville, Texas Tech, Houston, SEC play. Fun times ahead. At least we got basketball, man. Obviously the Michigan State loss is disappointing. It's a very tough place to play, but I really like the looks of this basketball team. I think they're going to be really good. Obviously, Arkansas and LSU is at 11:45 a.m. This game is on SEC Network on Saturday. The next week you're on the road again. You got Texas. Has that not been set yet? We got 2:30, 6, or 6:30. Why has that game not been set? That should have been set. Should have been set Monday, right? That's interesting. Yeah, 2:36 or 6:30 for Texas on November 22nd. That's pretty broad range. And then, of course, wrapping things up against Missouri, and that's going to be anywhere from 5 to 7 o'clock against Missouri. And that is the game that I really have certain. I think Arkansas has a chance in Baton Rouge. I'm not picking them to win this one, but I think they have a chance. And Texas is going to be hard. They're going to be coming off a game against Georgia this week, so that's notable. And I believe it's at Georgia. And then that Missouri game, I don't obviously think that Petrino's going to get the job at this point, but I'd love to send him out with a win, and wrap things up with a win, maybe give you a little bit of boost going into the offseason with the players currently on the roster that you want to keep. And, all that stuff's being worked out right now. Like, with players on the roster, their futures are being determined in a lot of ways. And, of course, a lot of that depends on whoever the new coaching hire is. But they're playing for a spot on the roster. They're playing for, put good film out, all those kind of things. Injury report is out. The first injury report comes out on Wednesdays in SEC games. Arkansas is going to be, we know, without Quintavious Scandrett, Monte Harrison, Ismail Cece, Jalen Brown, A.J. Green, Shaq McCroy, Andreas Poshka, and David Oki. Those aren't new names for the most part. Shaq is new, but we know he was injured in the last game. But that's not a long-term deal. I mean, it may cost him the rest of the season, but it's not something that's going to take him to the off season and stuff. Charlie Collins is questionable. He has a bruise on his knee, which is very painful. And then we know Larry Worth is going to be out for the first half. You're also, for LSU, they have wide receiver Nick Anderson is out. That's a big one. He's got like 38 catches or something this year. Gabriel Relaford is out, defensive end. Offensive lineman Tyree Adams is out. And then linebacker Whit Weeks is questionable. Whit Weeks and wide receiver Aaron Anderson is probable. But Whit Weeks was the guy that made that big play against them last year. Tipped the ball, broke into the backfield, tipped the ball up at the 2-yard line, intercepted it right there, changed the whole complexion of that game. Went from 16-10 to LSU to, 24-27, and then 34 in almost an instant. I mean, that was 5 minutes to go in the third quarter when that happened, basically. So Okay. Just from Bobby Petrino's and Frank Wilson's press conference, both of those guys kind of like, especially Petrino, like talk about, you talk about external distraction. There's also internal distractions, like, with their home life, with their family. Like, these coaches have kids and wives and stuff. And like they're not worried about what their future looks like, where they're going to end up. Are they going to stay at Arkansas? Whenever you do have a staff changeover, you always keep somebody. At least that way it's been since as far back as I can remember, from Houston Nutt being hired to everybody. Everybody since then has kept somebody from at least one person from the previous staff has remained. A lot of talk about Quincy Rhodes and the season that he's having, 14 TFLs to lead the SEC, 8 sacks, second in the SEC. And which quarterback, Garrett Nussmeier or Michael Van Buren? I think we'll see Nussmeier. It's not like Van Buren came in and changed everything. They got one field goal after he came in against Alabama. Okay, we're going to go to Kevin Bohannon now. Okay, Bo, how's it going?
It's going great. We had
Do you know what hotline you join us on?
The Ozark Go hotline. I definitely
That's the Ozarks Go hotline. Yeah, you can reach out to them at 479-684-4900, where you'll talk to somebody local because they are a local company, or visit them at ozarksgo.net/hawg, HAWG. If you're looking for better internet service, more reliable internet service, check them out. They offer several different tiers. Gigabit Plus is what I have. That's 2,500 megabits per second. Incredible bandwidth. I think the gigabit plan is probably good for most households. That's 1,000 megabits per second. They also offer several different other tiers. Don't jack up your rate in year two. Local company, as I mentioned, Northwest Arkansas, parts of Oklahoma, and always expanding. I put a lot of people on Ozarks Go, not just talking about them on the show, but personally talking to them because I was with them before they became a sponsor of the show, and I knew how reliable and consistent and steady that internet service is. Look like you got your ears lowered, Kevin.
I did. Yeah. It was actually last
What's
week.
that like?
Yeah, I know, right? It takes me back to 2 weeks ago.
When I go to my doctor for my annual exam, and she's like touching my neck and everything and making me breathe, I'm just like, nobody ever touches my face or my head. My wife occasionally, I guess, but I was like, it's just because I don't ever go get my hair cut.
That's right.
Yeah. Is that you? You got a phone call you need to take?
Yeah, I just need to figure out how to turn that thing off.
So, Kevin, we always talk about keys to victory, 5 burning questions. Keys to victory, all pretty much the same: penalties, turnovers, special teams, injuries, decisions and key moments, the overarching, making your opponents pay for their mistakes. But we also ask the burning questions in this one. And which team will play like a team on Saturday? I think that's a very important one, considering where these two teams are with both having interim coaches.
Yeah, and it's a historic matchup with teams getting rid of their coaches in the middle of the season. It's the first SEC matchup between two teams that have done that. So which team is still have a hold of the rope, and which team has just mailed it in? You have to think from Arkansas's perspective that they want to play for Bobby Petrino, and I've heard LSU wants to do the same for Frank Wilson, even though he's not a candidate for the head coaching job at the end of the season. He's well respected by the players. So which team shows up and which team wants to actually play for 4 quarters on Saturday?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. And, as we've seen with Florida, looks like they've just kind of let go of it.
Yeah, they're done. The rope. Yeah.
But don't get that vibe. I don't get that vibe from Arkansas. And certainly, LSU lost 20-9 to Alabama, but that's Alabama. I mean, you don't want to say it's a respectable loss, but it looks like a team that's still fighting. And so I think that's important. Will we see backup quarterbacks for each team? I thought that was kind of interesting. You think we could see a backup quarterback for Arkansas?
Yeah, with Taylon Green and the injury, even though he's come out and said, look, I'm ready to go. Bobby Petrino said he's ready to go. There could be certain situations where KJ Jackson may get a look. That hasn't been something that's been brought up. But we've known Taylon Green in the past, it only takes one hit. KJ Jackson came in for him a couple of times. We know that LSU is going to play both quarterbacks, Garrett Nussmeier and Michael Van Buren. at some point, Bob Petrino may want to look ahead to the future. That's one of those things that, look, the 5 burning questions are kind of like the keys to victory every week. You can say, okay, can they establish the run and everything like that? When does Arkansas really kind of see what they have in KJ Jackson? So it may happen in certain situations this week.
Yeah, I don't know if I love the idea of KJ Jackson getting an opportunity to put a bunch of stuff on film for whoever else who might be interested. LSU had 4 players on the offensive line got drafted last year, and they went from one of the best. Like, you look at their stats, and you're like, okay, how did they go from the best team in the country at not giving up sacks, or the best team in the SEC, to giving up twice as many? I mean, bottom middle of the pack this year. Yeah. Oh, well, they had 4 guys drafted in the NFL, so that would probably help play a role. But obviously, we're talking about Quincy Rhodes here. Can Quincy Rhodes get pressure on their quarterbacks?
Yeah, that's one of the things in the preseason, Trey, that I said Quincy Rhodes has the potential to be a double-digit sack guy this season. And a lot of people thought I was crazy for saying that. But watching Quincy just develop and evolve into the pass rusher that he has over the past season and a half, you could see that explosiveness from his get-off, from his takeoff, to the length that he has. And, yeah, he's going against some really good offensive tackles in this league. There's no denying that. But he has put up 8 sacks this season. He's been the consistent factor on that Arkansas defensive line that's obviously struggled with youth and inexperience and depth this season. So they're facing an LSU offensive line that is really young. They're when you have to start a freshman left tackle to protect Nussmeier's backside, blind side right there, it's going to be a long day. Alabama got home to the quarterback plenty last week, and Nussmeier wasn't able to escape any, because they're coming from both sides. Arkansas, for once, could establish some dominance on the defensive side of the line this week.
From 2007 to 2011, this was a very competitive series going back and forth. They'd win a couple, Arkansas would win a couple. But these last, since 2016, Arkansas has lost 8 of the last 9 against LSU. And, there have been some close ones, obviously, 10-13 loss, 31-34 loss. Last year got out of hand, obviously. And, when Arkansas won last time in 2021, it was a 16-13 win in Baton Rouge, by the way.
Yeah.
But it would be nice to get this back to being competitive. Obviously, LSU, has 20 more wins than Arkansas does in this series, but it would be nice if Arkansas can get that. And that's your next question. Can Arkansas get this back to being a competitive rivalry?
Yeah, and when Arkansas came into the league and the battle of the boot was, presented, look, that was something we always looked forward to for the Friday after Thanksgiving. The game would be in Little Rock. I attended, I think, 5 or 6 straight games in Little Rock as a fan. And it was something we always planned for, getting out there early, no matter what time the game was. And usually it was 2:30 on CBS. You could bookmark it. That's what you planned your Thanksgiving holiday around. So, yeah, it's changed since the game moved in 2014. And, the last 10 years, it's been all LSU. Arkansas's last win, as you mentioned, Trey, was 2021. It was that 16-13, just ugly game in Baton Rouge. Coincidentally, that was the last time LSU fired a coach midseason. So hopefully Lightning can strike twice for the Razorbacks this weekend down there, which leads us to our 5th question. What kind of home and field advantage will this be with it being an early game?
I thought it was real interesting with Frank Wilson said, we're not really used to having 11:45 games. I'm like, well, Arkansas is.
Yeah.
I always get stuck with an early game. But let's get you out with this. When you're talking about the atmosphere, because we got Glen West coming up next. But what do you think? Let's get a score prediction from you. How do you think it'll play out?
Yeah, it's 5.5. LSU's favorite right now. I could see Arkansas winning this game. I just won't pick them just because, fool me 16 times in a row. Shame on me. So I think LSU, they may do a couple of different things this weekend. Arkansas's defense will have to make some plays to win. I think LSU's defense is good enough to win this game for them. I think it will be lower scoring. I could see a 27-24 type affair, and it stays under of 58.
Yep. All right, Kevin. Appreciate you, buddy. Thanks
for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, everybody. It's Kevin Bohannon. Follow him at Cabo Baseball Guru on X. Does a great job for us, and has baseball news also with all the signing day stuff. Appreciate you, Kevin.
All right. Thanks, Trey.
All right, everybody. That's Kevin Bohannon. Follow him on X and read his content at Hawgsports. Do you like this hoodie? I got this from Walker Brothers. Johnny O. It's nice and thin. You can wear it golfing. I got a few things from Johnny O at Walker Brothers. And Walker Brothers brings you the finest men's clothing from around the world, carefully selected to last, fit right, and help you look your best. From game day essentials to distinguished luxury wear, from a meticulously fitted suit to the perfectly faded pair of jeans, every piece in their collection is hand-selected for enduring quality and iconic style. Experience that undeniable confidence that comes with perfecting your personal style. Visit them at 577 Millsap Road, Suite number 6 in Fayetteville, or at their brand new location, 3503 South 55th Street, Suite 101 in Rogers. Walker Brothers has great stuff. Been wearing some of their stuff lately on the show, but I really like this. It's nice and thin. It's stretchy. Johnny O's got some good stuff. They've got a lot of great brands over there at Walker Brothers. Okay, let's go to Glen West now. Glen, let me see how to bring you in here. Here we go. There you go. Glen, appreciate you joining us on Ozarks Go Hotline. Glen has been come on the show last couple of years helping us break down this matchup, and between these now permanent rivals, not that they haven't been permanent, but they'll continue to be permanent, I guess. Glenn, how you doing?
Doing all right, Trey. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
I'm doing good. I'm looking forward. I've probably been to Baton Rouge. I know I've been to Baton Rouge more than any other SEC venue. I just like going down to that town. The food's good. The stadium is great. I haven't been to a lot of early games, but I have been to day games there. What do you think the environment's going to be like there in Baton Rouge for 11:45 with an interim coach?
Yeah, well, I think with the interim coach and certainly the turmoil that's kind of gone on for the last month, I wouldn't expect it to be at its best at 11:45 kick. I mean, this is, I think, the first 11 a.m. kickoff they've had all season. And so, the fans are going to have to certainly wake up and splash some water in their face and get drinking maybe a little bit early. Frank Wilson kind of sent out his PSA on Monday to start the party on Friday night. And he'd go out there and start shaking some hands and kissing some babies on the night before the game. So, look, I think this is going to be a real game here where LSU is going to have to create some of their own momentum and create some of the fan interest in this game with how they play on the field. And the last several weeks, it hasn't been really great play from this group as they've gone through this coaching change and losing 4 of their last 5 games.
Yeah. What's going on right now with the quarterback situation? I think part of this, and I like Garrett Nussmeier. I appreciate that he stuck around at LSU when, basically he was in line to start, and then, obviously could have left and stuck around and then started. But I do think that his play is a big reason that LSU is in this situation right now. And I know they brought in Michael Van Buren, who we saw at Mississippi State last year. He threw for 309 yards against Arkansas. But it's not like he came in and, they scored there was a field goal.
Yeah.
So
they had 44 yards on 22 plays against Alabama last week.
Nussmeier's completion percentage was pretty good. It just he didn't throw for a lot of yards and they didn't score. But how do you think things are going to play out at quarterback?
Yeah, look, if I had gone into the season and told you that Nussmeier would go 18 of 21 passing with 0 turnovers in the Alabama game, I would have thought that LSU had been really good in that game offensively. And there's just been no explosiveness this year from that group. They just haven't been able to get clicking in any sense of the word offensively. And I think there's a number of factors. There was certainly the injury that Nussmeier had suffered in the training camp earlier this year, some abdomen injury that he wasn't able to really kind of get back from and be healthy for, I think, the first month of the season. That certainly derailed, I think, a part of his growth early in the year. But he's been healthy for the last 3 or 4 weeks. And I think it's just what's become very apparent to me is that an immobile quarterback with this offensive line that LSU has trotted out this year are just not a very good mix. And that's been kind of the major bugaboo for this group all year, is that the offensive line, whether it's early in the year, they couldn't get the run game going. And so, teams were able to really stack the box and not, not allow for a whole lot of passing lanes for LSU's offense. And then here recently, Nussmeier's just been getting crushed. I mean, there's no other way to put it. He's been sacked a ton over the last couple weeks, and I think it's starting to get to his head a little bit. I mean, he's not looking down the field to pass. He's doing a lot of check downs, a lot of screens, and that the screen game's always been a part of LSU's offense this year. But they've really, I would venture to say, 60% of their completions have been on screens and just trying to get their guys, moving right at or around the line of scrimmage. And it's just not an effective way to have a good offense. And, Nussmeier is certainly not blameless in all this at all. I'm not trying to, pass no blame on him. He's certainly taken a step back from a explosive standpoint in his throwing and his passing game. But there's a lot of factors that have gone into this and why I think you're going to see a lot more of Michael Van Buren, not only this week, but over the next couple games as LSU rounds out the season.
Yeah, maybe a little bit more mobility will help, but it's amazing how every quarterback out there needs protect. I mean, like if Kansas City Chiefs had to face the Eagles every weekend, then we would think Patrick Mahomes was terrible
with the Bengals offensive line or something like that.
Exactly.
It'd be pretty hard to win games like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also amazing when you lose 4 guys to the NFL that you're going to have a drop off on the offensive line.
Yeah.
It's kind of maybe a game like I always say this, but like the movable force meets the resistible object in this one with the Arkansas defense and the LSU offense. Sounds like Whit Weeks is doubtful, questionable. I can't remember how he was listed on that, but
he's questionable this week. He's been doing some more in practice this weekend or this week leading up to the game. Last week was really the first week, though, he'd put any kind of weight on that ankle. He's been dealing with an ankle injury for really the last month, and it's caused him to miss a good portion here of this LSU losing streak that they've been on. And he's a big part of their defense. He's, I don't know that he's the most talented or the most athletic linebacker out there, but he's been a playmaker for LSU for the last 2 years in the middle of that defense. And you could say arguably his greatest performance of his career was last year at Arkansas. And he kind of made a couple of those plays in the second half there that really kind of opened up the game for LSU. And so they would certainly love to have him back out there. I'm hesitant to say that he'll play. I mean, we'll get more of an answer, I think, today when we meet with Frank Wilson at around 5:00. But he's a big piece of this defense, and they've certainly been missing him. But I would be a little bit surprised if he played.
What's going on with this coaching search right now? You heard anything yet?
No, they're trying to. They got to get out of their own way first. I mean, I don't know how much you guys have been able to follow some of the stuff that's going on down here, but I mean, they've had everybody from the governor of the state of Louisiana to the top administrators, all these guys. You have an athletic director one day, you don't have him the next day, and there's just a
you fire your coach and then you don't fire him.
Yeah, exactly.
You fire your coach for cause and then you don't fire him. You fire him for convenience, and then you don't fire him from convenience. You fire him for cause. It's
been as hectic a 3-week stretch of news that I think you can possibly have in a college athletic program. But I think they finally have some alignment now. They have a university president who they hired last week in Wade Roos. They have an athletic director in Verge Osbury, which they have now stood by for a week, which I think is progress. I mean, there was a couple-day stretch there where it was, okay, Verge is going to be the full-time guy. And then, well, let's just evaluate this process and see how it plays out. And then, no, he is the guy. So, he's the athletic director. They have a search committee that they put together to go out and find their coach. And, to be honest, until I hear something different, I think it's call number one is to Lane Kiffin. And until he tells them no, LSU is going to be, really all in on trying to get, Lane Kiffin out of Oxford.
That's what I heard early on, Glenn, was that, north of $12 million, they're going to make Lane Kiffin say no to him. But of course, Lane Kiffin probably going to be in the college football playoff and making a deep run. And then you run into all kinds of calendar issues with the transfer portal and stuff. I used to think that Death Valley Tiger Stadium had the best pregame in college football with the video that they would show, about, this when the sun finds its home in the western sky for a Saturday night. Although I do think that they messed it up by modernizing it a little bit. They kind of chopped it. I like the old version of it where it was just kind of smoother, and now it's just like choppy and stuff. Yeah. What do you do for morning games? Is it like when the sun leaves its home in the eastern sky? What does the intro look
When
like?
the
I can't
when the
remember.
sun stays up in the Western, I have no
Yeah.
idea. They still play the same videos. They still go through most of the same
Yeah.
pregame routine. They won't. I don't think they'll play a whole ton of the Louisiana Saturday Night. That's another popular song they like to play throughout the game. But they got to figure out some of that stuff for sure. But
Well, it's a great environment. I always look forward to going down there. Thanks to United Airlines also, because it's a direct flight, which in most years I think would prompt a lot of Razorback fans to go there, but I don't know for an 11:45 game following a 2-7 team. I don't know if that'll happen or not. But how do you see this one playing out Saturday? It's an interesting one.
Yeah, I actually, I know you just had, another one of your writers on here in the previous segment, was able to hear kind of his last spiel about, he thinks it might be a little bit under the over under right now. I actually think this could be a pretty high scoring game. Like I think that, LSU's defense has not been very good against mobile quarterbacks, and that's very much a strength of Taylor Green. I think he's really improved in that respect this year. He's certainly been a more explosive all-around quarterback, and LSU's just had real trouble stopping those guys. And so, especially if Whit Weeks doesn't play this weekend, I would expect Arkansas's offense to be able to move the ball pretty consistently against LSU. And I think in that same boat, LSU can move the ball against Arkansas here. I mean, this is, I know you mentioned the immovable force against the object there, but like, I think this is an Arkansas defense that certainly has struggled. I don't think they've held anybody under 30 points since September 13th. So LSU's offense has certainly not been great. They have not scored over 25 points in any Power 4 game this year. But I like this matchup for them. I think that if they're able to create some of their own momentum and create some of their own energy here, I think they can get into the 30s. And I think if they get into the 30s, it could be enough to win them the game. So I've got LSU kind of in that 35-30 range. I think it is under a score and is an interesting game and has some hopefully interesting plays throughout the course of it. It was a very boring game against Alabama last week, which you don't really get a whole lot of in that matchup. But every time LSU was about to go down there and make it interesting, they would just kick themselves in the foot and have to settle for a field goal or turn the ball over or have a big penalty that really erased any momentum. And that's just been kind of their bugaboo all season long.
Yeah. Well, if you don't like the matchup with Arkansas's defense, and you got serious problems on offense, I'm thinking 31-24 LSU.
Okay. Yeah, we're all kind of in the same range then. Yeah.
Okay, Glenn. Well, I appreciate you hopping on, buddy.
Yeah, Trey, thanks for having me. Hope to see you down here.
Yeah, I'll be down there and looking forward to it as always. All right, everybody. That's Glen West. You can follow him at Go247 and read all their content. He does a great job. You probably don't know, you can't tell, but he's about 6'10", probably the tallest guy in this industry.
Yeah, I'm up there. I would say so. I would venture to bet that I'm definitely up there, unless there's a former basketball player that's also a writer that I don't know about. So
that's right. All right, Glenn. Appreciate
it,
buddy.
Thanks, Trey. Appreciate it.
All right, everybody. Appreciate Glenn and Kevin both hopping on, talk to us a little bit about what's going on there. It is time for the Wager Wagon, and then we're going to get to your questions. But last week we had a pretty good week, went 4-1 picking games. We are currently 30-23-3 overall, 6-3 picking the Hog games, and 0-1 picking the Hoops. I actually had Arkansas covering 1.5, so plus 1.5, so against Michigan State. So 0-1 on Hog Hoops. All right, so looking at this game, obviously I'm taking LSU in this one at minus 5.5. I've got 31-24 Tigers. So I'm going to take LSU in this one. I just think that LSU's got a pretty good defense, even though, as you mentioned, they have struggled against running quarterbacks. It's an early game. For some reason, early games, I kind of think that the score will be a little bit lower, but I don't know why I think that, but I tend to think that. In Baton Rouge, Arkansas defense can't stop anybody, even when everything's on the line. They still just lay. So I'm going to take LSU. Let's see, Alabama. Who's Alabama playing? I just have Alabama. OU. They're playing OU. Alabama. I like them at home at minus 5.5. I just think Alabama is the real deal. They've just been surging and surging. I'm not convinced Oklahoma is the real deal, even though they won at Tennessee and that was a really nice win. I just think Alabama covers 5.5 at home. So I'm taking the Crimson Tide in that one. I think Florida is done. Playing Ole Miss, Florida lost 38-7 at Kentucky last time out. That is being done. They're done. So Ole Miss at minus 14.5. I really like Ole Miss in that one. Texas at Georgia. Georgia is -6 in this one. This is a really big game. And I'm not sure what to make out of Texas because, they lost to Florida. They spanked OU. They barely beat Kentucky in overtime, barely beat Mississippi State in overtime, beat Vanderbilt by 3. Georgia's just been more consistent. Not that Georgia's just wowed me. They haven't. But I'm taking the Bulldogs at home, -6 against Texas. Missouri has lost 3 out of the last 4. They're still a 7-point favorite on the road at Mississippi State. They have a freshman at quarterback. They're down to their third quarterback in Matt Zollers. I'm going to take Mississippi State to cover 7 points, +7. They need that win to, really need that win to get to a bowl game, I think. So I'm going to take Mississippi State. I'm going to take Missouri to lose 4 out of the last 5. Again, a tremendous start for Missouri, largely based on the way that schedule shaped up. So that's our picks this week on the Hawgsports Bet Saracen Wager Wagon.
What can you say about Super Sid? He's one of Arkansas's all-time greats and still cares about the little guy.
What I like the most about Bet Saracen is the ability to make bets during the game.
How about this special offer from Bet Saracen?
Brand new players get a 100% profit boost just for downloading the Bet Saracen app.
I always played Bet Saracen out on the trail.
T-Diddle Biddle. Do you think they've already passed on Bobby, even though by some miracle they went out? Can't wait to see Ozzy's reaction, no matter who it is. Ozzy Maverick. This is from Memphis Hog 901. I do think, if I'm to believe what my latest bit of information, that this guy thinks that something has shifted and the way things are being talked about has changed. I can't really go into too much, but I do think that it's going to be very. I feel like Bobby, despite this defense is not his fault, I feel like he needed to win Auburn and Mississippi State. I just the way the Auburn game finished, I think really hurt him. And I don't think that this is a situation where as a lot of people have suggested, let Bobby Petrino be the coach for 3 years, get things in order, hire a good defensive coordinator. I think they want a guy as a program builder right now. I think the idea is to work to get this program going a certain direction. And we've talked about 2030, and I don't know what that means, 2030. People keep bringing up 2030. Could be a complete restructuring of college football. I've talked in the past about things like private equity entering college football. I've talked about new TV deals in 2030, restructuring of college football altogether in terms of conferences. There could be a lot of changes in these next 5 years. So these next 4 years, Arkansas has definitely pushed out there that they have got to get their ducks in a row and get football program in a place where it's competitive against anybody. Josh Weaver 1115 says, Biddy, is it Franklin? Blink at least once through the rest of the show. The answer is yes. Blink at least once. I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I can hold not blinking. All right, Josh. Sorry, can't answer that one for you. Hogwild 816 says, T-Dazzle, in my role when I'm hiring people, I develop a profile of set of skills, traits, etc., of the kind of person who would be successful here. Does Hunter Yurachek Board of Trustees break things down by traits? I think that would be successful. With football coaches, I just don't think you can compare hiring a coach to anything else out there. I feel like it's different. And I've made the point in the past that you got to have somebody who is a little weird, a little crazy, a little off the wall, just a different kind of person. Somebody who sees things just differently than most people. I mean, there are musicians, there are artists. Artists are weird for the most part. They're just different. Musicians are different types of people. Obviously everybody's a little bit different, but there's just certain things about an artist that makes you just think like they don't think like everybody else. And I think it's the same way with a coach. Like I've talked about Eric Musselman and just how crazy he was, in a good way, good kind of crazy, just like work until 11 o'clock, calling you at 11, wake up the next morning. There's your phone ringing at 5 o'clock in the morning. It's Musselman. Just go, taking losses extremely hard and just different. And Nick Saban is like that. And Bobby Petrino is like that. I just think to be a great coach, you can't be a normal old guy like, man, I think I'd really get along with this guy. That's probably pretty rare. Even John Calipari is just completely different than most people out there. You just have to be a different kind of guy, I think. So I don't think it works like, well, this person's a good candidate because they do this. They're highly recommended by this. No, it's like, this guy's a good candidate because he's weird. He's different. Even Houston. Have you ever met anybody like Houston Nutt before in your life? I haven't. Just different. Houston Nutt. Trey Biddy. Smiling Assassin's Creed says, T. Blitzkrieg, do you believe Arkansas is hesitant or even opposed to dealing with Sexton, given you can't be hesitant or opposed to dealing with Sexton? He's controlling so much behind the scenes. So, no, I don't. WME, and Pittman was represented by Sexton on his second contract. WME has come a long way since the last coaching search, and they have an impressive client list. Could Arkansas coach be under their representation? I mean, there are other agents out there, obviously. Sexton controls a lot, though. And, the guy's a great agent. He does a great job. You can not like him, but I would take him as my representation, and I think you would too. T. Hammer, you mentioned that we might have our guy. Can you tell us whether or not you have more hair or the same amount of hair as our guy? Would be a big hint. That's from Willie B. Hardigan. Yeah, Willie B. Hardigan. That's right. WILLIE B. Hardigan. Hog Jackets 1 says, why is Nako's reporting we don't have a top 3 or even a top 1? Is he insane? I don't know. If Arkansas doesn't have a top 3, then that is insane. I don't believe that to be true, though. I mean, yesterday it was like they got their guy. Today, now it's like they don't even have a top 3. I can't believe that. I've got an itch on the side of my nose that is, sorry, I've got to get it. Burkus Maximus says, Trey, any realistic chance that Bobby stays as OC? You just don't see that very often. Now, I would hate to see Bobby as an OC at another SEC school, but you just don't see the coach who was the interim stick around. I mean, obviously John L., wouldn't have been like, hey, John L., stick around. But Barry didn't stick around. Joe Kynes didn't stick around, Bassin Hog 411 says, T-Ray, Franklin would be a slam dunk hire, yet someone will want to poke holes in his resume. Absolutely. Nobody's going to be on board with any coach that gets hired. Not everybody's going to be on board with that. But some of the ideas out there are pretty unrealistic. I'm not saying he's the only person that I can remember that people were just universally like, oh my God, was Bobby Petrino because of the success that he had at Louisville, going to the NFL. I mean, he was about as clean a resume guy, even though there were some this guy just bolted on Atlanta, even though there's that was about as clean a resume because he was a winner that you're going to hire. Like if Arkansas had hired him directly from Louisville, people would have been just like, wow, that is insane. Like they just took him from Louisville, a guy with that kind of resume. But he's the only guy. Brett Bielema had a fantastic resume. You know, it didn't end up working out here, but his resume, like he took them to 3 Rose Bowls at Wisconsin. I mean, had some big winning seasons. Let's look at Brett's resume real quick. Everybody was like, who? Bielema? Brett Bielema? Who is that? Because a lot of people thought it was going to be Gundy. Oh, wow. I think I got a wild hair poking up or something there. So Brett Bielema was 12-1 at Wisconsin one year, 10-3 one year, 11-2 one year, 11-3 one year, 9-4. I mean, so on and so forth. Like this is the guy. Like if Arkansas hired a guy with that kind of resume right now, there'd still be people that bitch about it. Well, why did he go 8-5 in 2012 if he's so good? Yeah, it didn't work out at Arkansas. But, like, as far as resume goes, like going and taking Wisconsin's coach, a guy that had won, like over a 3-year period, he went 10-3, 11-2, 11-3, and finished it out with 3 straight Rose Bowls. Now, he didn't coach the last one because he took the Arkansas job, but 3 straight Rose Bowls. And I remember people bitching about that. And, like, that's just one that's just like, how can you bitch about that one? Like on the cuff. I know it didn't work out, but like there's a good chance that whoever they hire also is not going to work out. All the coaches that we mentioned, those G5 coaches, Eric Morris, Alex Golish, Ryan Silverfield, who am I leaving out? You know, Jason Eck, Jeff Traylor, who hasn't like positioned himself obviously to get that job, but like, you know, maybe you throw Kane Womack in there because he was on that level, but like, all those guys have good resumes, seem like they would be good coaches, but not all of them are going to work out. Just like Billy Napier didn't work out at Florida. Billy Napier at Louisiana went 11-3 his last 3 years there, 11-3, 10-1, and 12-1. Why would you not be excited about that? Why would you not be excited about that? And then at Florida, he goes 6-7, 5-7, 8-5, 3-4, fired. If Arkansas went and hired, if it was 2021 and Arkansas is on a coaching search and the guy at Louisiana is 11-3, 10-1, 12-1, that would seem like a pretty good hire. There would be still people who complain about it. But I'm just saying, like, you just don't know. And my hope would be that Arkansas has done extensive research into whoever this hire is, like, and explored every option from coordinators to anybody who, John Gruden, anybody who is a remote possibility to take over the job, and has done vetting and in-depth research all the way down as far as they can go to the guy's childhood. I would hope that they've done that in this time. Burgess Maximus, Trey, any realistic chance Bobby? He does that. Bass and Hog 411 says, T-Ray, I did that one. Okay, the Boar Room. Trey Bingo Bango. Bingo Bango Bongo. Trey Bingo Bango Bongo. I get the sense that we aren't seriously considering NFL coaching candidates. Are you pretty confident that we won't be going that route? Based on the language that I'd heard from the last guy, I don't think if the last guy is right and Arkansas has their guy, you know, in principle or whatever, I do not think that's an NFL guy. I think it's a guy with an offensive background, but I don't think it's an NFL guy. The NFL guys that we've talked about are Jesse Minter with the Los Angeles Chargers, who is from Little Rock. Again, that's kind of spitballing. There's nothing hard evidence other than I've been told there are 2 coaches. Okay, so I'll say this. This is what I was told a couple weeks ago now. 2 coaches from the ACC have been interested. 2 coaches from the Big Ten are interested. Head coaches. These are head coaches. These 4 that I'm talking about. 6 coaches on the G5 level, 2 coaches coaching in some capacity in the NFL. I just picked out Mentor because he's got ties to Little Rock, defensive coordinator for the Chargers. They got a really good defense. They've got a really good record this year. And Cliff Kingsbury, who the rumor is he's looking to get back into college coaching. Kingsbury doesn't have an exemplary record as a head coach. I think they went 11 wins one year with the Cardinals. But Texas Tech wasn't outstanding under him. Of course, Texas Tech now is a lot different than Texas Tech was then. But Texas Tech wasn't outstanding under him. But yeah, I mean, everybody knows who Cliff Kingsbury is. It'd be intriguing. Hogtalica says, who were you talking about on Drive Time Sports that shaved their head bald and got the glitter on their head? I can't share that. Maybe he'll let me tell that story one day, but we were just joking around and, talking about shaving our heads. And he was like, the first time I shaved my head, it was all white right here. And my wife gave me some self-tanning stuff because I was talking about that when I dyed my mustache for Halloween, and I thought the Just for Men washed out. And then I had, go on camera and I had the walk and talk. I don't know why my nose is itching so bad. I had the walk and talk. And then I had family pictures on Wednesday, and it's still a little bit darker. But anyway, so he was telling me that he shaved his head and had his wife gave him some self-tanning stuff, and it later on he recognizes that it's glitter self-tanning. So he's just got, not only has he shaved his head for the first time and has to walk around with that, like, oh, you shaved your head. Why are you so shiny? Daniel 13 says, Trey Biddy, how much would one of the AAC coaches being mentioned, Golish, Morris, etc., in the search affect their chances of hiring if they make the playoffs? I mean, it depends on how far you go into the playoffs. Like December 20th, I think it's December 20th when they start, right? They should start those earlier. I got a few ideas on the college football playoff. So round 1 is December 19th through 20th. Quarterfinals on December 31st and January 1st. And then semifinals on January 8th and 9th. National championship on the 19th. So that takes you all the way up until the start of school. Classes start. So if you make the semifinals, then that is a definite problem. If you make the quarterfinals, then it's pushing it. Like you're pushing it on time. It would make sense to move all that stuff up a little bit. The problem that I have with the college football playoff that I think should change is you play those on-campus first-round games on December 19th through 20th, and you play them on campus. And I don't like that. I don't like that these teams that are, more at-large type of bids, teams that are very subjective, ranked very subjectively, I don't know that it's fair to say this team is so much more deserving than this team because, like whatever matchup, I don't even know how it's 7, I just don't understand why you have a subjective poll not based on playing each other, and you say this team is so much better than this team that they deserve a home game over them. I don't think that that's fair. I would like to see, if you really want to make something like it matter, like the teams that get that first round bye, let them play the home games, play those first round games as bowl games, and play those second round games. Let them have a home game for that. I think that makes way more sense than playing those first, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games, those first 8 games on campus. That's my opinion. Hey, Trey, do you think Arkansas will extra $40 million, the additional $10 million? Do I think that they'll get it? I think that's what you're saying. I think you got a typo there. That's confusing me. But yes, I do hear that while, and Tyson supports so much. He does so much for him. But I do hear that should be a hurdle they should be able to jump over. I've heard some other things that I'm not ready to talk about yet also, about, people that might be involved, but I am looking more into some stuff. Jurassic Pork says, Trayminator, would you prefer a more offensive or defensive-minded coach? Also, what are your top 3 bourbons? I think offensive-minded, but I wouldn't be opposed either way. I want a guy that can build a program, a guy that's a leader, a guy that people will follow, a guy that people will respect. That's what I want to see. Maybe somebody that is intimidating a little bit, but also appreciated by players. Kind of I don't know. I guess I'm looking for, I don't know if it matters so much, but maybe I would lean towards offensive-minded. My top 3 bourbons, that's tough. I'll say the bourbons that I like right now, I like the Henry McKenna right now. That used to be a little bit cheaper, but it won a bunch of rewards, and it's more expensive. But I do like that as a sipping bourbon. My daily driver bourbon type would be Maker's Mark. If I'm like mixing drinks, that's what I would use. But if I'm sipping, I like the Henry McKenna. It's hard for me to say beyond I could sit here and go, yo, yeah, Pappy, or, Buffalo Trace, or, there's obviously a ton of good bourbons out there. But I will say that my sipping bourbon right now, a little more expensive, nicer, not outrageous, would be the Henry McKenna, and then regular Makers. I'll use Bullet too, for just mixing drinks and stuff. I don't think that matters as much for mixing. I like a bourbon and ginger ale. It's just like a regular drink. Like I can't go all night just drinking straight bourbon on ice. I don't want to get just trashed, so I'll mix it. Okay. TJ 1009, I thought Selman Bridges was fighting to start at cornerback. I did too. I think I've seen him play 50 snaps all year. What's the deal with him? I don't know, but that's something that's kind of bugged me with Pittman. We would see guys in the spring and in camp, right there competing. I think that they were worried about guys hitting the transfer portal, honestly. And I think that was probably the case with Bridges. They brought in those older guys. But we also saw, Jordan Young didn't practice all spring. Kenai Walker was banged up in the spring but practiced, and that's probably one reason we saw Bridges so much. But I also think that there are guys like Bridges and others that, we saw practicing more with first team, and then Quintavious Scander's another, and just barely see him at all, So that always kind of bugs me, but we'll see what happens with Bridges. But yeah, he's definitely not been a guy we've seen a lot. What SPF do you use on that dome piece? Says C Trickle. I use a 50. I like a 50. Got to apply and reapply. But yeah, I like a 50. Yeah, I like to get about 15 minutes of good sun exposure. I think that's supposed to be healthy, and then I apply. Divine Glory said, I've come up with this, and people think this is hilarious, but playing golf, because I like to use the lotion kind of, it's supposed to be better for you than the spray. But I bought these this is genius, I know. I bought these latex gloves, and I get them in the extra large, the biggest size I can get, so they go on easily. So when I'm playing golf, I can use that and apply, right, with the gloves on, and then take the gloves off, throw the gloves away. That way my hands don't get all lotioned up, and I can play golf. You're welcome if you've been looking for a great idea to apply sunblock that isn't aerosol. Some people say I'm a maven that just provides good information to people. I'll take that role. Divine Glory says, with the information you have now, what % chance do you think the hire is James Franklin? I still think that we have to prepare ourselves that it's not, because that would be a big hire, in my opinion. I don't care what anybody says. Hiring a James Franklin would send shockwaves through college football. It really would. Arkansas got James Franklin? Hold on. Not Florida, not LSU, not Virginia Tech, but Arkansas? James Franklin going to Arkansas? Maybe all that stuff I heard about Arkansas is true. Tyson money, Walmart money, Stevens. That's the kind of – there would be a lot of talk about that. Just like with Calipari. I mean, that was a huge news story. We had the damn John Calipari press conference televised nationally. I mean, it was nationally televised. Like, that was such a huge deal. Like, I don't know if people obviously you realize getting John Calipari, but like, it was nationally televised in Arkansas. So, percentage chance, I got to temper my expectations on that. If it was James Franklin, I just think, like, if you're upset with that on the surface, like out of the gate, I just think that your expectations are absurd. This one says it's confirmed by Virginia Tech 24/7 guys that James Franklin has visited Blacksburg 3 times looking for houses this last time with his family. Okay. I'm not saying that Virginia Tech's out of it. I mean, I don't know what's going on with Virginia Tech. And just because I know that James Franklin's asking around as of a couple of weeks ago about Arkansas, just because I know that doesn't mean he's not asking around about Virginia Tech and other places. Okay, everybody. Mr. Hogtober says, is the deal done? Do they have their guy? And you've been told to go silent. No one cares about this weekend's game. I care about it. I still like football. I was jealous last week watching all those football games and teams with something to play for, and just the excitement that you could see in the fans' eyes, watching those games. Jealous of it. It's been so long. It's been too long, and the state deserves more than what they're getting out of their football program. I like that basketball is doing good things. Love that baseball's, where baseball is. But I have made this argument several times. This is a football state. I don't care what anybody says. People want to win in football more than anything. People are more outraged when something doesn't go right in football than any other sport. It's the truth. This is a football state. It just is. And this is what we have at Arkansas is the Razorbacks. This is the team that most people grew up watching. And it's sad to me that people have the attitude about, I've just reserved to the fact that we're never going to be good in football, not to get my expectations up, not to get my hopes up. I want my hopes up. And if they crush them, that's fine. But I want to go into a season feeling like, damn it, there's a chance that they could do something special this year. And it's been a really long time since that's happened. And it's very unfortunate. And it's not right. And we need people with deep pockets to help this program. We need the fans to support the program, the everyday fan to support this program the way they can. We need people that you probably haven't even heard of that have deep pockets to help, and those people help. And they don't get the credit they deserve because they're not household names like some of the guys out there and some of the families out there, ladies too. But everybody has to be marching in the same direction here, and we can't just get outraged with each other. We can't. I mean, it's just human nature, especially online when people type out their feelings and hit send or hit post and stuff. It's just human nature, but got to get to a point where everybody's. I was watching Josh Pate the other day, and he was talking about Texas Tech and just how everybody seems to be going the same direction. He compared it to take Friday night at the biggest high school town ever and multiply it times 100 or 1,000. I can't remember what he said. And that's what Texas Tech has going right now because everybody seems to be focused in the same direction. They're pouring money into the football program, into facilities and all that stuff. And to be honest, that's something I'd never really heard about Texas Tech. And the last time I've been there was, what year was that? 2014? Was that 2014? That's the last time I've been to Texas Tech, been to Lubbock. And I've been critical on Lubbock, just like everybody has. It's Lubbock. But I haven't been there in a while. And apparently what Pate says, it's really great. And A lot of that is the football program. I don't think it's any secret that comment has truth, that the football program is the front door of your university. And I've made the point several times that Alabama has more national merit scholars, at least in the top 3 every year in national merit scholars going to that school. Do you think that's because Alabama has this great academic reputation? Or do you think it's because people want to go to a school where they have a great football team and experience that as part of their college experience? Look at what's happened to Alabama, that town, that state. The Nick Saban effect is real. So get your football program in order. Give us something to be proud about. Give us something to wake up on Saturdays and think, you know what, Hogs got a chance. That's what we're looking for. I think that's what most people in this state who grew up following this team, I mean, like I have for 40 years now. It just doesn't seem right that it's where it is, that you go in just expecting mediocrity at best. And that's what Arkansas football has been for way too long, and capable of a lot more than that, especially with the new model in college football. I don't think there's any question that the new model of college football is better for Arkansas when you take so much of the direct access to talent out of the equation, and now it's about, you know, what you can do to fund your football program. If Arkansas could just get their stuff together in that regard, it feels like they're trying to do that. It feels like they're really working to it. I would ask why it done, why hasn't it been done before now? Anyway, that's the show today. All right, everybody. Next time you see me, we'll be walking around Death Valley talking about the Arkansas football game. I know. Why are you going to Death Valley? I booked it. And I've gone to 18 straight road losses. And I think there's a chance, maybe the streak ends this one. It'd be nice, wouldn't it? All right, everybody. Appreciate you joining me. Appreciate Kevin Bohannon, Glen West hopping on. This has been Trey Biddy with Hawgsports.com. We'll catch you next time.